and welcome to the talk, How to Talk to Your Children and Teens About Their Feelings. And I have here Kemi Omijeh. I got that right?
Yes, you did.
And Kemi is a registered therapist, mental health consultant, and relaxed kids coach. And she has also worked for CAMS, which so I'm so happy to have you here, Kemi, because you're going to talk to us about how we can talk to children about their feelings. So how old are your children?
So I've got a 6-year-old and almost 2-year-old. Is going to be 2 next week. Next week, yeah.
So are you starting to talk about feelings with the 2-year-old yet?
Absolutely.
How young can you go?
You can start at any age. So at his age, it's just about noticing and responding to his feelings. So when he is sad, I label that feeling, and I do say Leon sad, and give him actual language. So rather than saying what's the matter, what's wrong, the very first step is labeling and naming that feeling. And if he's frustrated, usually to do with his sister, I name the feeling, and then I can resolve whatever else is going on. But you can always talk about feelings. And another way we often do it is also with stories. He has a favorite story. He has oh god, it's gone up, monkey puzzle. That's it. It went out of my head. Yeah, monkey puzzle, and it's about a baby monkey looking for mommy. I use talking about feelings that way because that's a concept toddlers can get really easily. Something lost, you're sad when you're looking for it, happy when you finally found it. Very simple. Yeah. So
really simple,
you can start a toddler.
So literally labeling them. And it's true, rather than asking a question, because they don't really know. So
they're like, yeah. That's the adult go-to. Like I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying that I get it right 100% of the time, but it's our go-to place when they're upset. Like, what's the matter? They're like, I don't have the language to tell you, but it's really powerful to just name their feelings and show that in your body language and your face that you see their sadness.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how important do you think it is to create space and time for feelings?
Oh gosh, I might be biased, but I think it's very important. For me, childhood is a period of like adventure, curiosity, self-discovery, and part of that self-discovery is your feelings. And if you go throughout your childhood and it's not, you haven't created the space and time for acknowledging their feelings, what message are we sending to them about a really big part of them? Because our feelings exist whether or not we speak about it. So whether or not you create that space to speak to them, that all those range of emotions exist in them. So I really do think it's important, but you don't have to make it such a big formal sit down conversation. It's just about weaving it into their daily lives, into their normal day-to-day interactions, in the way you talk about eating healthily, eat your vegetables, talk about feelings. It's so normal. Be that role model. Talk about your feelings as well, so that they know how to manage it.
So you think that's important for parents to express, acknowledge, and talk about feelings as well?
Absolutely. And there is a fine line between doing it in an age appropriate way as well as not burdening them. I'm not saying they're not your friends, they're your children. But getting that balance right between I feel frustrated, and I do say that to my children, but they see me overcome that frustrated. So they see me say I feel frustrated, and they might see the action that I do to deal with that frustration. And then I say, that's better. So they've seen that journey of this is how we deal with feelings. So it's really important to role model that and normalize it. But it's not something that you need to make a formal thing. I have to stress that. I think it's more about incorporating it into your daily life rather than.
So, but you don't think there is a time, a right place to talk about feelings, a specific time?
So I think that, so I kind of categorize responding and dealing with feelings in three different ways. So the first way is noticing feelings, and the way I've given the example of my toddler, noticing when they're sad, you're sad, but then there'll be an occasion where you need to respond to feelings. So for example, they come home from school and they tell you about a sad incident that's happened, or someone left them out in the playground, or something didn't go their way. That's the occasion where you respond to the feelings. And that is about, what I'm hearing is, this is how you felt about what happened. What would you like to do to make that better? How can we resolve that? So that's a responding to feelings. And then the final one that I think is important is about giving them that education and those skills. And I think that's a little bit of where Relaxed Kids comes in, where you give them those actual skills to cope and manage with feelings. And then perhaps that's when a sit down talk may happen. But I tend to link that with a more significant event. So if there's been a bereavement or anxiety around a pandemic, for example, then of course that does need sitting down. And you say to them, when we're feeling anxious, we might feel it in our bodies, we might feel it in our tummies, we might feel it in our head, and we might also do X, Y, Z, certain behaviors. And then you add on, these are the ways that we can deal with those feelings. So in my personal view, the time to have a sit down talk about feelings is when something significant has happened. Otherwise, just normalize it, talk about it in your everyday life. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. What about teens?
Ooh.
How do you talk to teens about
Oh, it's so
feelings?
easy. No, it's not easy. It isn't easy. I think developmentally.
You've got that all to come.
I know. Oh God, don't. I'm trying not to think. And the thing about it, the thing I hear about from so many of my colleagues that have teenage children, they're like, the classic is, don't therapize me, mom. So I'm waiting for that. I think the first thing is you kind of have to work with them and go at their pace, and it's kind of mirrors toddlerhood in many ways, whereby you're not going to lead the conversation. Just get that out of your mind, that you don't lead the conversation, and you kind of keep the doors open and the lines of communication open. You might want to send a WhatsApp message and say, I would like to talk to you about this. Let me know when you're ready. You might want to leave a Post-it note on the door. You might want to catch them in the drive-in between school. So no pressure, but just really relaxed. But absolutely take the lead from them. A trick I tend to give parents is, I can hear echo. Is it my echo?
Not sure.
Okay, I'll carry on. A trick I tell parents is, I tend to say, use examples. You can make up the examples. Don't tell them I said that. But you can say, oh, I've heard, or I was watching on the news the other day that this happened to this person. What do you think about that? You're not asking them, it's not directly asking them about their feelings, but you're saying this event has happened. What do you think about that? And inviting that invitation and that conversation. It isn't easy, but it is about leaving the doors open and the lines of communication open. Let them.
I guess you could send a WhatsApp to talk.
Absolutely.
Maybe they want to talk about feelings through WhatsApp.
It's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Face. Yeah. And
it's okay to do that.
And so, do you think all this feelings talk can be too much? Over analyzing, going over feelings, talking about. Is there a time where you just need to stop talking?
I know.
Or is there never enough?
I get that a lot. Yeah. I get that a lot, and I think the people that I get that from, the biggest concern is you might be opening up things that are not there. But in my opinion, if it's there, it's there. Whether you speak to it or not, it exists. And I don't think that you can ever overdo feelings, especially in the way I've described it. If you're doing it in a more relaxed and creative and fun and engaging way, following the child's lead, that can never be too much. And I think the important thing to remember is that I kind of give this analogy of, if somebody asks you, how was your day? And often, apart from saying fine, often the first thing that comes to our mind is the worst thing that happened in our day, or the best thing that happened in our day. And between the worst thing and the best thing, we've had 100 different other feelings. And I believe it's really important to be more mindful in our lives and connect to those other emotions. So when I'm summarizing my day, and I do reflective journaling at the end of the day, when I am summarizing my day, I try to tune into those quieter moments because they feed into bigger moments. That's why I think you can never overdo feelings, because you're equipping your children to be more mindful, to be more connected to their feelings and their sense of self and their identity. So to me, it can never be too much, because you don't want them to focus on all those big emotions. There are small emotions as well that feed into the big emotions, and talking about feelings help them differentiate and address them and decide which feelings to ignore, which feelings to respond to, because we can't respond to everything we're feeling. We don't need to act on our every feeling, but we need education about our every feeling.
And how do you explain to children what feelings, emotions are? Because I heard it's such a lovely expression of it's energy in motion, and it's moving through our body. It's literally it's almost like a chemical reaction to the triggers from outside in the body, because that's where we feel the anger or the pain. How do you have any ways that you explain what feelings are to children?
I love that. I mean, I haven't heard that. I love that, but I do actually definitely use the body, because I think children more than adults feel it first in their body. So especially, they might not have the articulation or the language to express their feelings, but they feel it first in their body. Even think about babies, pre-verbal, when they're crying, the crying has different needs, and the way the body reacts to the cry, for me, is an indicator of what the cry's need is about. So if a baby is frustrated, there's lots of kicking legs, there's lots of fists, but if they're wanting comfort, they're not as tight and curled up. So I do absolutely link it to their body, and I tell them to pay attention to what's going on in their body. And another way I use it is, of course, the relaxing, the meerkat, the owl, and the elephant, where you talk about the amygdala, and you kind of make it a child-friendly way of explaining that there's a part of the brain, the science word is what I say. I say the science word for it is the amygdala, but I prefer to call it the meerkat. And then you tell them there's actually a part of the brain that is responsible for our feelings, and a bit like a computer, it sends signals to our body and our mind. And I mean, it's a whole spiel, but I think it is about getting them to be more connected to their body and listening. And a lot of children consistently, really, the minute you introduce the idea of the amygdala and the meerkat, consistently, they just get it. Like, it's something they can grasp. They're like, okay, I can work with this. So yeah, and another way is there's Dan Siegel, the upstairs downstairs brain, which is very similar. But yeah.
And so what would be what fun, enjoyable exercises, tips and tricks do you have to help children and teens? I mean, you mentioned some really good ones for the teens, so maybe more for the children, help them manage their feelings.
Oh wow, how long have you got? How to talk about
it. Go for it.
So I've got I love, this is kind of what I'm passionate about. So this was an easy yes, because I was like, yes, I could talk about feelings all day and creative ways to engage with feelings. I did show, I mean, there's a range of resources I use. Story books are really good. So in story, there's no story that I've read or picked up that doesn't have a single feeling in it. So that's a really that's a really good. Just use that observational.
That would be a very boring story.
Exactly, with an emotion in it. So I mean, we love books in our house, and books for me are a big, powerful thing. But I actually also do affirmations on lolly sticks. So I use affirmations to. So for example, if my daughter, quite a while back, she was scared of going swimming. So the feeling is scared, and I try and get an affirmation to counter that after we've had a discussion about the scared feeling. So the opposite of scared, or the counter to that, is brave. So I try and balance a feeling that they're struggling with a positive affirmation that we want to get into. And the thing about affirmations, you don't have to believe it yet, but that's the point of them. You incorporate them into their daily life, and then they start to believe it. I do like a feelings wall. So with children I work with, we emoji stickers, and we put emoji stickers on the wall. This is great for boys. Not that I want to gender stereotype, but a softball, and they throw it at the emotion they're feeling, and they really love that. And especially if there's a lot of frustration, fidgetiness. So you get the stickers on the wall, and you get a ball, which don't like, it's a no talking. So we have 5 minutes of no talking, and you just throw the different emotions at it. You might want to mention an incident that happened. So you might mention somebody that's annoyed them. You might say Jack, and they will throw the emotion. You might say school, and then they will throw the ball at the emotion. I mean, I could literally go on. Colorful Jenga. So I have like Jenga. I have it here actually. Here's one I made earlier. So Jenga, using the colored bricks. And the important thing about with this is a lot of adults that play it tend to match the cut. Sorry, I'll start again. So what you do with Jenga is you pull the brick out, and according to the color. So if you pulled out a yellow block, you attach an emotion to that. And often, what we as adults do is we say yellow is happy, red is anger, blue is calm. So when you pull out the yellow one, tell me the time that you were happy. But I actually tend to get the children to label the emotion and label the colors. So I think that's really key. It's a very subtle difference between you giving the color a feeling, because that's your agenda, that's not their agenda. Because red might mean anger to me, but I think colors are very personal. So it might mean anger to me, but to another child it might mean happy, and it's okay for it to mean happy to them.
Amazing.
I hope you can hear me with all this.
I'm really hoping that everyone can hear. I can hear you just about. So I'm sort of pushing through because I'm not quite sure, because it doesn't seem to be when I'm talking, it's when you're talking.
Oh, is it? So, oh, that's annoying.
Yeah. Maybe take your headphones out for a moment and see if
let's test that out. But I'm hoping people heard all of that. Does it make any difference?
Maybe.
No.
Maybe a little.
Okay. We'll persevere.
Yeah. Well, and what about the are there any of the Relax Kids products that you use to help talking about feelings?
Again, how long have you got? But my favorite, I had to just choose. I only have one that with me, but I love this. How to be happy. Because I'm very creative minded. I love a lot of activities, and this really speaks to it. You don't need to have a sit down conversation. This speaks to you can be busy doing arts and craft activities, because there's so many lovely ideas in here. You can be busy with an activity and then weave it into the conversation. It doesn't have to be focused on feelings. And the other reason why I really love this book is that it shows that happiness is something that you actively have to do, like actively have to invest in, actively have to take part in. We don't just necessarily wake up happy. We actually may have to do things in our day to be happy. And I think that's a really powerful message, particularly for teens. Actually, I think younger children can tap in and out of their happiness, but teens can be quite swept up. It's a really hormonal time for them, and they can be quite swept up with their big feelings. And it's important to them to let them know that actually happiness is something you have to seek as well. It doesn't necessarily just come to you. And that's another reason why I love this book, because it's just different ways of exploring being happy, and it's quite a bonding activity with parents. So I've actually done some of these with my daughter. So yeah.
Amazing. Your 6-year-old, you've done,
sorry, my 6-year-old.
Also, the Monster Handbook is another one that is perfect.
Oh, I love that.
Work.
And Monster Feelings. So I know because I'm a coach, so I know about the Monster Feelings sessions and the programs. Though that's one of my favorite sessions to deliver. Like it just really taps it, and it speaks to them. They get it so easily. It taps into that. That feelings, we need to name our feelings, we need to connect with our feelings. And the fact that you label different monsters, like happy monsters, sad monster, angry monsters, children really grasp that concept really easily. And so that's one of my favorite sessions to do.
And also getting them to draw their own monster. There are so many different tips and tricks and ideas in that. So it's like a handbook for for children's emotions, really. That's a really good one. So yeah, brilliant. So have you got any last little things you want to talk about feelings, or any tips, tricks, things just before we end, Kemi?
Well, I think the biggest message, if I was going to give any parent, and I'm really, this also works, I'm speaking to myself as much as I'm speaking to everybody else, but I think it's really important to be mindful of your feelings and where you're at. And it's that whole, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on others. Yes, you can focus on your children and their well-being, and of course, as a parent, that's really important. But if you're doing all of that stuff and you're not focusing on yourself and your feelings, children see through that. Then you're not practicing what you preach. So just as it's important to speak to children and get children to connect to their feelings, I'm asking you to also do that for yourself too. You matter too. Your children's well-being matter. Your well-being matters. Look after yourself so you can look after them, and you can role model that very idea that feelings are important, and we need to listen to them and respond to them.
Absolutely. And then they'll be just mirroring that back.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if this was crackly for you, and I'm sorry if it was crackly.
I hope it wasn't for others. It's fine for me. I'm just hoping for others.
Yeah, let's just hope it's not too bad on the replay. But thank you so much, Kemi. That's full. We've got full of lots of ideas, I hope, and tips and tricks for parents to help children deal with their feelings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Listo.